I'm wondering if there's practices or examples of things you can do. If I'm listening to this being like, that sounds nice for you, but in my situation, I can't even think of that. I just need to pay the mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is completely relatable and it makes sense. And if we're wanting to move beyond that, we have to look at, and I think this is what I think we are in a moment upon which we are recognizing that we have been emotionally, psychologically, spiritually illiterate. We've been in a kind of spiritual, emotional dark age, if you will. And I think we're beginning to recognize that there are tools, there are ways upon which we can learn to either find greater levels of peace, or learn how to basically regulate our nervous system so that we can come back and cohere into a deeper state of connection. Because like does attract like, fear attracts fear. I mean, if you walk into a bar and you're in a bad mood, the studies on this, you're more likely to get into a fight, or there's a fight more likely to emerge in your environment. If you walk into a situation, you're calm, you're confident, you're grounded. This could be with your spouse or a friend. What's more likely to happen? If something emerges, then you're able to hold that ground and you're able to hold that connection. Most likely, something will happen and then it'll just rectify itself very simply. Because our nervous system is determining the thoughts and is determining how other people are reading us. And then from there, reality is emerging itself. And there's also, I mean, there is a field beyond that as well, which I imagine Ken was talking about, that is attracting in the field. And I mean, the latest in quantum mechanics and mathematics are starting to begin to recognize and be able to quantify the unquantifiable, and I think we're beginning to recognize that that field is real. And even at a very practical level, that field that we are in impacts the field of the people that we're with in terms of how they respond to us. So to answer your question, and I mean, I train every one of my clients in this, and I have an app which actually trains people to do this for free called the Toolbox. And the basic skills really of transformation, or at least, of transformation, is to firstly learn how to regulate our nervous systems. Because what we're really doing there, if you want me to break it down a little further, is we have to learn, we don't have to, but it's really supportive, to learn how to take states of stress, and there's activated stress, which is a sympathetic response, and then learn how to bring that back into connection. So we can take stress, activation, bring it back into connection. And that can be fired and wired until you learn how to do that. It's a conditioned response. Normally what happens is we get stressed and then we don't know how to get out of it, or we do something, I don't know, we go to the gym or we get angry and that's a way to outburst it. There's other ways of offloading stress, but there are more skillful ways where we can take that stress and even before it gets all the way to number 10, start feeling it a 7 or an 8. You're able to take some breaths, you're able to resource from your heart, again, cohering with the heart, and you're able to bring that into a state of connection. That's an incredibly powerful thing for someone to be able to do, very useful too. And then the other piece is states of deactivation, which is also a stress response, but it's a deactivated stress response where we start shutting down. That's where depression lives. That's where withdrawal lives. That's where I'm kind of pushing back. That's where I'm not reaching out. That's where we're, maybe staying in bed for a day or two. That's a deactivated response. If we can learn how to start to bring that deactivated response back into a state of connection, you start firing connection, love, with deactivation, with depression. Well, if there's connection there, if there's love there, it's no longer depression. And the same in reverse. If you take states of stress and you're able to bring it back into connection, it's no longer stress. It might be excitement. And these can be fired and wired. I mean, I did it with my own nervous system. I support my clients in doing the same thing. And that's baseline. Like we've just got to that's like the baseline skill that we have to begin to learn en masse, individually and en masse as a species, because the discoherence that we're seeing out there, whether it be politically, socioeconomically, the discoherence that we're seeing out there is really just a reflection of lots of people's emotional, psychological discoherence within here. So to answer your question, from that space, once you can learn that basic skill, from stress to connection, from deactivation to connection. Once you learn that basic skill, then it becomes a lot easier, because then you can start operating more and more and more from that space, so that you can start selling with love.
Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.